What's a secret you're so still doesn't know about you, and why have you kept it secret? Fairly sure my so isn't exactly sure how many cameras and lenses I own. One big lens looks more or less the same as another. I knew my girlfriend bought me slippers for Christmas a few weeks in advance, and instead of telling her I just talked more about how much I needed some slippers. It made her extra excited for me to open something that I needed so much. I wouldn't want to ruin that memory for her. 10 out of 10 slippers. 11/10 sweetheart. From context clues picked up in conversations we've had, I found his Reddit username. I check it at least once a week and give him secret upvotes. Get that karma, babe. Sometimes when I make his favorite homemade chicken tenders, I use mayo in the dredge before I flour it. He would literally keel over and die if I told him this. It would ruin his favorite dinner. We both hate mayo, but damn if it doesn't make a good dredge. I can relate. My husband absolutely hates mayo with a passion. Every once in a blue moon I'll use it on the chicken because yum. One day my 5-year-old was in the kitchen while making dinner and was absolutely shocked watching me use the mayo because daddy hates mayonnaise. Now I've accidentally passed down the dark secret of the forbidden mayonnaise to her and I think it's hilarious. My so's father used to always give her quarters growing up. He has since passed and now every time someone in the family finds a quarter they think of him looking down on them. It's sweet. Before we moved into our first home, I snuck in and hid quarters in obscure places all over the house. She's still finding them and she likes to leave them in the spot she found them as a reminder. It always makes her smile and I'll never tell. I inherited a few million from my mother who died when I was a child. I've mostly left it alone because there wasn't anything I wanted that I couldn't just get with some elbow grease. Once my so and I are at the cusp of doing the house and kids thing, I will let him know so he can stop worrying about earning enough to put a down payment on a new home. About 8 years ago I discovered my wife's sister's Reddit account accidentally. It was a variation of a username she'd used for AIM before, but with different numbers and no underscore. The numbers were a significant date to her though. There were too many coincidences in her posts for it not to be her. She was posting on the relationship advice subreddit. Her now ex-husband was abusive. We'd known something was off about him, but couldn't really put our finger on it. I created another account that I only accessed from incognito mode to send her encouragement to leave, and to ask her family or friends, but kinda steered her towards us for help. She didn't want to impose or be a burden on any of them. We just had a kid. And I make a bunch of money but we live well within our means, so you wouldn't think this based on appearances. So it was an understandable concern. I slowly, over several weeks and several different posts she made, convinced her that it's possible her family realizes something isn't quite right and would not consider it a burden to help her out. After their divorce I deleted that account. Nobody will ever know that the random internet stranger who was weirdly persistent in encouraging my sil to reach out to her family for help and leave her abusive marriage was actually me. My wife doesn't know how deathly afraid of being alone I am. Like, it really, truly scares me to my core. Not being alone, like having alone time. That doesn't bother me. But the idea of spending my life alone is terrifying to me. I sometimes feel like I put up with things I shouldn't, because I love her and worry so much about being alone or having her leave me. I've spent nights pretending to sleep so that she won't know that thinking about it keeps me up at night. I absolutely hate his brother with a passion. He thinks I like him. That raccoon you hit with the mower wasn't fine. I beat it to death a shovel to put it out of its misery. She was in her 3rd trimester and was very emotional. I couldn't tell her she'd basically cut its rear legs off. She doesn't really know how big my Lego collection is, since most of it is in storage. We are moving next week, and it will all be in a stack in the new garage. Heck, I'm not even sure how big it is. She knows my user, so this is pretty light. A few years ago I had a big cup of water on my nightstand with a straw, and when I went to get a drink, I felt something odd in my mouth. When I spit it out, it was a spider. She's terrified of spiders. If I had told her, she might have never slept in that room again. Thankfully I've moved since then anyway, and now use a cup with a lid that closes all the way. Arachnophobe checking in. You made the right call. She definitely doesn't want to know. Someone tried to break into our building with a big kitchen knife about 6 months ago. She's already quite paranoid, scared of this sort of thing happening, so telling her would more than likely mean she wouldn't sleep and probably mean we would have to move house. In a former life I used to be quite the pothead. I had a life-altering experience and completely changed my lifestyle literally days before I met my wife. I also drive a limo part-time. She knows all of this. What she doesn't know is that a few years ago someone left a joint in my limo. It was fall, and I was burning leaves in the backyard. I made a point to make the burning last past her going to bed, and then really burned the leaves. It's the only time in the last 16 years that I've been high. And I absolutely loved it. When going to the store one day, my so asked me last second to take our 3-year-old daughter. I was already in the car, so my so strapped her in. She was oddly quiet the whole car ride, and I accidentally went in the store without her because of it. I remembered after being in the store only about 45 seconds, but immediately left the store to get her. I was so embarrassed someone would notice, so I went to a completely different store. Now it scares the shit out of me, and even when I know I don't have one of my kids, I always check behind me before getting out of the car. One of the worst feelings I've ever had, and even now I get sick to my stomach thinking about it. His background picture on the computer is a pretty nice digital art piece of a Gundam, or a mecha at least. But it's from Gundam. Thing is, I keep seeing one of the face parts as a big derpy smile. So one day when he wasn't home, I found a pic of a dog with its tongue hanging out and photoshopped it onto the Gundam. I don't even remember how long ago it was. I even told him I had pranked him somehow. And he still hasn't noticed it. I have a brother that's a registered sex offender in another state. From that brother I have 7 nieces and nephews. I don't mention it because I have no reason to be in contact with that part of my family. I recently downloaded Reddit because my so was always on it and was always showing me memes, dog videos and content I liked. Since I liked his Reddit feed, the content he was showing me, I subscribed to a lot of the same subreddits as him. However, I now see all the content I like on my own account. I check Reddit fairly often, and I've begun to realize that all the memes, videos, etc. he sends me, I've already seen it. I know how much it sucks when someone says I've seen that already. So, every time he shows me some content I've already seen, I always pretend like I've never seen it before. It makes him really happy when he shows me something and smile, find it funny, etc. I know he browses this subreddit sometimes, so hopefully he doesn't see my comment. My wife had her drink on the floor one evening while sitting on the couch watching Netflix. She took a drink and immediately spit it out. A bug had gotten in her glass and she almost swallowed it. I immediately grabbed the drink, told her it's just a little moth, and while I disposed of the drink ruiner, she gagged profusely and rinsed her mouth out. All bugs freak her out. Thankfully she was soon mostly over it since it was such a small moth. We'll never tell her it was a pretty good sized cockroach. Just how bad my past relationships were. I have given him surface level accounts of my past, but the actual details are so painful for me that I can't find the words for it all. Also, just telling him the bare minimum caused noticeable pain on his face. I think the full truth would leave a sizable amount of pain in his heart. I don't need him to know the details or feel any form of pity for me. I just need him to know that he makes me feel beautiful, safe, loved and special, and how grateful I really am to finally have someone who wants to show me how beautiful life really is and can be. That I was kicked out of the army. All she and her family know is that at one point in my life, I was in the army. She's seen my beret, so I guess that's enough proof for her. I can't imagine it would destroy us, but I don't just drop information like that on people. In Seinfeld, George Costanza has this hilarious answering machine message of him singing, "I did the same thing with our house phone since no one will ever call it. Going on 3 years and she has no clue. I just want to see how long the joke can last. A couple of my friends and relatives know about it, lol." I think his best friend uses him for money, etc., and he's too scared of losing him to ever protest. Really vile. I hate her homemade spaghetti sauce. It's been 14 years. Why tell her now? Honey, have you changed your pasta sauce recipe? No. You should. I pick my nose in bed while I'm half sleeping, and I have so little feminine grace left as us. Before we started dating, we were co-workers as the same retail shop. We had become super good friends and both had some interest in each other, but never got the ball rolling on anything exclusive. Her father passed from a heart attack randomly in the middle of the night. She took the 3 paid days off our job gave us, but she obviously needed more. The new manager at the time was scrambling to cover the shifts, but being a new guy no one came to help him out. I cared so much about my coworker and loved the friendship we had. I ended up taking 90% of her shifts so she didn't have to worry about that part of her life. Now we're a couple months into dating and I still haven't mentioned it to her. Not that it's a secret or anything. It's never came up on a conversation and I don't tend to talk about her father all too much.